The mountains are harsh and dangerous places. The weather can turn in an instant, and one wrong move can result in death. Over the years, there have been some tragic incidents in the mountains. People have died doing what they and we love doing, challenging their bodies to the extreme, staring death in the face, and giving it the fingers. This is just a single example of one of those terrible tragedies. It was the month of June 1974. Though the Watergate affair overshadowed the Moscow summit between President Richard Nixon and his Soviet Union counterpart, Leonid Brezhnev, the Cold War was on the verge of ending. A month later, thousands of miles away in Central Asia, near the Himalayas and in the shadow of Peak Lenin, an American and a Russian met again. The group reached the summit on August 5th, despite warnings from their meteorologist at base camp that bad weather was inbound. A storm hit the team while they were on the summit, and they were permitted to set up camp to try to wait it out. It was hard to find any specific information about this tragedy because, as they say, dead men or women tell no tales. While camped out on the summit, the women's small cotton-ridge tents were destroyed by the storm's high winds. In the absence of a snow shovel to dig shelter, they were forced to descend. Lenin Peak is a 7,134-meter-tall mountain on the Kyrgyzstan-Tajikistan border and is the second highest mountain in both countries. In 1974, the area was very much in the hands of the Soviet Union, and like many other developing nations at the time, women were considered second-class citizens compared to men. Their rights were slowly increasing in the country, and in July, a group of women decided to show just how capable and deserving of respect they are. A team of 8 people, all women, set out to make a point by being the first all-female team to reach the summit of Lenin Peak. They couldn't get as much gear as they should have and were severely under-equipped, but this didn't stop their determination. And so they made their way to the mountain base camp as planned. The initial climb went well, with the group reaching the summit without any major incidents. On the way up, they were warned over the radio not to stay up the mountain due to incoming bad weather, but they decided to press on. Elvira Shataeva was first seen by Molly Higgins when she came around a bend in the high Pamirs mountain range, also known as the Roof of the World. Higgins, an outward-bound instructor living out of a worn white automobile in the Colorado Rockies, had been invited to a month-long international mountaineering event organized by the Russians. The 1974 American Pamirs USSR expedition included 19 Americans, including 2 women. Higgins was a last-minute invitee when organizers, many of whom were unclear or concerned about where women fit on excursions, realized that one woman needed to appear to be more than she was. I was ambitious and self-confident, and I thought I was very strong. Higgins, who now works as a clinical laboratory scientist in Whitefish, Montana, says. When an earthquake rattled the slopes, she was with a crew bringing supplies up to Camp 2, Crevasse Camp, on the shoulder of Peak Lenin, the country's second highest summit. Higgins recalls hearing a creaking sound, then above camp, an avalanche rumbled overhead, launching from the summit of an ice tower. The avalanche obliterated the sky, scattered equipment, and partially buried one person, with at least 2 more plunging into the chasm to escape. 4 of the crew had gone down earlier to resupply, and individuals in both parties had feared for hours. Alan Steck, a pioneering climber from Berkeley, California, was buried up to his neck in the lower group. The 2 groups met gleefully at Camp 1 on the Krylenko moraine before retreating, rattled, to base camp in an alpine meadow. Shortly after the group reached the summit, a bad storm hit and blasted them with ice-filled gale-force winds. They still had radio contact at this point, and the base camp staff permitted them to make camp there for the night. During the night, the storm blew away their thin cotton tents, and with no shovels to dig a shelter, they were forced to try and make it down in the dark. With near-zero visibility and temperatures well below freezing, the group struggled to make their way down, frequently getting lost and quickly succumbing to frostbite and extreme exhaustion. One by one they started to fall, too tired to take another step and collapsing in the snow. A massive mountaineering camp housed 170 climbers from 10 Western countries, with another 60 Eastern European and Russian climbers and authorities across a stream. This was the first big American expedition permitted in the Soviet Union, which contains some of the world's highest and most isolated mountains. The gathering appeared to be held to showcase the region along with the skills of the host climbers, as well as to cultivate relationships with Cold War adversaries. It was viewed as a technique for developing young mountaineers and fostering international mountaineering partnerships. The deaths of 8 women marked a summer of tragic climbs in the area. Within the last month, the mountain was hit by severe storms, avalanches, and 2 earthquakes, creating climbing hazards. Last week, a Swiss woman identified as Eva Leschenschmidt of Bern died of exposure while climbing Lenin Peak. 3 Estonian climbers were killed recently, and 2 others were seriously injured as they were caught in an avalanche while climbing the peak's east face. Last month, another avalanche killed an American climber, John Gary Allen, on the north face of nearby 19th Party Congress Peak. Last week, 2 American colleagues pushed through the first ascent of the mountain's north face, an attempt that had been broken off after Mr. Allen's death. All told, 12 American climbers ascended the mountain, a prestigious target in the Soviet Union. The Americans are among climbers from 10 countries participating in an international mountaineering camp. All 8 women perished on the descent down the mountain, and it was thought one of many things that contributed to their deaths was their unwillingness to leave their fallen friends behind. In such an extreme survival situation, it's important to leave behind people who can't make it as quickly as possible, grim as it may sound. This is something that people are briefed on before climbing mountains such as Everest, as those few extra minutes spent with someone who can't be helped could end up killing someone else. After it was found out that all 8 women had died, there was quite a media storm about the event. People were criticized for pressuring them into making the point in the first place, and the mountaineers shouldn't have let them attempt the climb without the proper gear and experience. Women have long proven themselves in climbing and mountaineering, are generally seen on crags and peaks, and are acknowledged as peers 45 years later. As Higgins puts it, the tale of the Russian women climbers is one of the epic sad stories in modern climbing history. Different countries worked together during the meeting in disastrous and even surreal circumstances. As Bloom put it in her book, other people had known the Russian women to be jubilant on the mountain and then witnessed a tragic and noble end. It's so tragic that it happened at a time when more women were starting to brave great challenges on rock and in the mountains, Higgins adds. I wanted to be one of those women, and Elvira seemed to be invincible. Nobody could have predicted how many things would go wrong that summer, how many events would be poured down from the sky and upthrust by the earth, or the heroics that would occur. Despite this, the story of one of mountaineering's worst calamities has been almost completely lost. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed today's video and found it interesting, then make sure to leave us a thumbs up, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to always be updated with the most exciting content as soon as it's uploaded. Thanks for watching. See you again soon in another video.